drink it.
Yeah.
I used to drink it, then somehow it just went away. But I replaced it with iced tea. And now it seems like the iced tea's gone away.
So your drug delivery system has changed.
Yes. It's still
Water
caffeine.
now.
You're still addicted.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, now it's water. Oh, I'm slowly coming
And
off
iced
the
tea.
All right.
Iced tea, well, still caffeine.
Oh, I know, but I'm
Yeah.
coming off it. I mean, it's like I drank one pitcher in a week and a half, and that's like every 2 or 3 days I'm usually making it. So that's a big reduction. So.
All right.
All right.
Interesting.
So we'll get started. I'll be a little late, but so before we start talking about things, I'd just like to sing through a few things to get back on track. Set a little watch. We'll do those later on because I think there might be a few times when we need to know a few more symbols, and that would be helpful. But first, if we can go, I think you're the only one that doesn't have this.
Yes.
The exercises for learning the names. Everyone have the names sheet. So we'll just go through that real quick just to make sure that we're kind of getting back on track. Let's do number 1. We'll skip through some of these, but just to get us back. So number 1, Neagie, that'll be our knee. 1, 2. Ni pa ni, ni pa vu pa ni, ni pa vu ga vu pa ni, ni pa vu ga vi ga vu pa ni, ni pa vu ga vi ke di ga vu pa ni. Ni pa vu ga di ke zo ke di ga vu pa ni. Ni pa vu ga di ke zo ni zo ke di ga vu pa ni. Is that okay for everyone? Mm-hmm. Number 2. Ni pa vu ga vu ga di ke zo ni pa ni. Ni zo ke di ga vu pa ni zo ni. Number 3. Ni pa vu pa ni, pa vu ga vi ga vu, ga vi ke vi ga, vi ke zo ni zo ke, zo ni pa ni zo ni. Yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Trick ya.
Yes.
So let's see. Number 4. Ni pa ni, ni vu ni, ni ga ni, ni di ni, ni ke ni, ni zo ni, ni zo ni, ni ke ni, ni di ni ga ni vu ni pa ni And then number 5, the difficult one. Well, not that the other ones weren't difficult, but the more difficult one. So, ni, ni, vu, vu, ga, ke, pa, ga, ga, vi, zo, zo, vu, di, di, ke, ni, ni, zo, pa, pa, ni, ni, ke, vi, zo, zo, ke, ga, ga, vu, di, di, ga, pa, pa, ni, vu, vu, pa, ni, zo, ni.
Can I
So,
put those on a scale? We have to put the notes. Put them as knee, food.
what do you mean, like with the notes, or?
No, don't use it in the notes. Just put the word knee. Like draw it as if you're gonna write a scale.
Oh, like this, or what?
No, like me, pa, pa.
Oh, so like
No.
What is
Yeah,
it?
so
So
she's
it's
so
like
instead of a note, have the knee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then
Yes, that's what she wants.
with like a chart, with separations.
You might as well just put the notes in, love.
It's easier, huh?
I could do that at some point. I mean, that can be the second page. It's just this for the one.
Sometimes I just forget to go up or down. Like,
Yeah.
You know, the notes when you see it on this. On
Yeah.
your
You're supposed to internalize that though. That's what
Yeah.
this is supposed
I
to teach you.
know.
Well, this one is supposed to be like ni pa ni. That's easy because that's what we always do. Then ni vu, you just know ni. Where's vu? Pa vu. Then ni vu, and yeah. I'll see if I can.
No, it's okay. No, I'm just joking. Then one of these I read, I was going, following along, and I knew we were going back down the scale.
Yeah.
So I started going backwards on the sheet. I'm just not used to it without a scale, but it's okay.
Okay. Well, anything that can help, I'm willing to attempt.
No,
So-
I'm going to learn the right way, not some made up way.
Well, there are all sorts of paths to Byzantine theosis.
Enlightenment.
Back to theosis now.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I'll shut up.
No. Okay, so does everyone have the God as the Lord sheet as well? Okay. All right. Yep, that's the one. So we'll sing this just to get back on. We'll do this at a fairly quick tempo since we've done it multiple times. So, what note do we start on?
Multiple times, what you said?
Yep, we've done it multiple times. So,
You just haven't been with us.
what note do we start on? This may be a trick question. I don't know.
What did you ask?
Yeah, we start on K. But the real note we actually first sing is Zo. So we start on K, that's our basis, and then we start on Zo. So, ane, ane, that'll be our K. So we have K, Zo, Ni, Zo, Ke, Vi, Ke, Zo, Ni, Ke. So we'll just sing it on the words. So, God is the Lord and hath appeared unto us. So wait a second.
Looks like this.
Why do I have this? Did you hand it?
I hand that up. Yeah, I
So
hand
what
that
I'm
up.
I'm sorry, I don't have it.
Yeah,
don't
you
have-
look for the
Oh, wait, did I not? I thought I.
Well, no, if you've
May
been.
not have-
One of the weeks. You might have given it back to me. That's
Is that the
what,
problem? Okay, I'll
Okay.
read off this one.
so. God is the Lord and hath appeared unto us. Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. So that's kind of a little slower than we would do it in church. We'll do it one more time at tempo. But then in the midst of these, you would have all these verses at the bottom, which would just be, "Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, and call upon his holy name." Then we sing it again. So, God is the Lord and hath appeared unto us. Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. So, and we'll keep bringing this back along with everything else that we learned just to see the first time you read it is probably going to be much more difficult as opposed to the second and third and fourth time. And this one, just with all these things, just make sure that it's legato, smoothly connecting each note. And we'll go into interpretations later on what those mean. And does everyone have lesson 1? This lesson 1. Okay.
I don't think I have that.
Okay,
Is that
I have more of you.
Last week?
No, that was the first. That was the first week, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Would you like one?
Yes, please, because I seem not to have it.
Okay, so you can have this one for posterity. And I should have more. I can always print up more. But for the moment, I will read off of someone else. So we'll go to the second page for the praise of the Lord from the heavens. And what is our first note? Me. Yep. So, that'll be our knee.
Praise the Lord from the heavens. Praise him in the highest.
Is that okay for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does anyone want to do the challenge exercise and see how we do? Or that's going to be difficult with all knees and ahs.
Okay.
Since we never actually did it in class, I just said use it as an exercise for yourself. Anyone want to do it? Is that okay? Okay. So that'll be our knee.
Ni pa vu ga li ga li ga vu pa vu ga li ke zor ke li ga
And then we break, and then we see that there's a V there, which tells us that we're on the right note.
Right.
So that's a good thing because we had a whole lot of music there.
Yeah.
Continuing on from the correct note.
Vi ke li ga ke ga vu pa vu ga vu pa ni pa vu ga li ke li ga vu li ga vu pa ni zo ni pa ni.
All right. So how was that?
We did it.
Yeah. So we read through that.
Not too horrifically bad.
Right?
Not too horrifically
No,
bad.
not at all.
Problem with God, but
Yeah. So that's tremendous. I made that so that I would have difficulty reading it because there's nothing that you can really grasp onto. You just keep going and you keep reading, and then eventually your brain gets full, and you're kind of like, there's still music. So that was my.
I noticed that right around here.
Yeah. When
Where's that note?
you reached overload point, and then it's kind of like you have to keep going. And sometimes you do find that in music, especially as you're beginning to read things. The one thing that I don't think that we ever talked about was that there's bar lines that I put in there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if it was like that. This bar line happens to just say that this section is going to feel different than the other sections, meaning that it only has 3 beats for a rhythmic unit, whereas most of them have 2 beats. So this is just kind of signifying this is separate. And there's actually a section in there where it's a bunch of them in a row. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So and oftentimes if there's, to clarify even further, what they might do is in the midst of this, from in between these 2 lines, they might put a 3 if it's going to be 3 inside of this bar lines. If there's going to be 4, if we would add another one, they would put a 4. You will see 5s and 6s in certain music, but most music you won't. So we'll read some music, and that's where if you look back at God is the Lord, the Plagal first mode, The first one, God is the Lord, has a 3, and then it has a bar line because it's God is the Lord. So 1, 2, 3, 1, and then after that is 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, off. So, does that make sense? Okay.
So mainly it's 2 beats apart from the.
Exactly. Yeah, except for wherever there's a 3, and then that 3 or the 4 or whatever number it happens to be gets is finished wherever that bar line is. Sometimes the 3 or sometimes the number is on the first note of the set. Sometimes it's in the middle. It's just somewhere where you can see it easily in the middle of that set.
And the 2 beats is one of these symbols. The 2 beats, not.
Most music, everything will be 2 beats.
Everything. Okay.
Everything, unless every so often music will say
Unless you see the bar.
Well, sometimes they'll put bars in, especially if it's triple meter. Most everything will be 2 beats. Every so often you have a triple meter thing, but it'll normally say at the top triple meter, and then they do put in the bars to help you see the waltz type rhythm. So you'll have instead of these set, O Lord, a watches, you'll have set, O Lord, a watch before my mouth, and a door of enclosure round about my lips. So that kind of thing. And they only do that for long vigils and things like that, where a little bit more majesty is required. So, any questions there on that stuff?
Well, it's interesting how they translated all this stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, we will continue going on. So I believe we got up to exercise. We didn't do 48. I believe that's as far as we got. So we'll probably do maybe 48. We'll skip a little bit to get the rhythm. But just to summarize all our symbols that we've learned, we have this one, which is 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3. And then 4, and then after that we kind of stopped, and I said that one was, I think, and then to go down, we have this one, then we start combining, then we have a new guy, and then we start combining again. Okay? So this is just up or down 1, up or down 2, up or down 3, up or down 4, up or down 5. Okay? And then if you replace any of these bigger guys with the patastis on the bottom instead of the oligon, then you get a fluttered up one, or up symbol. If you add a patastis beneath these guys, you get a fluttered down symbol. This one happens to be the one weird case where you can write it like this. You can also write it like this. And then to flutter, it's actually a combo symbol like that. So, any questions on those? And we'll go to 6 and 7, and then we'll kind of be finished with our symbols until more complicated music later on.
And the kendimata?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well that would be in here where we can have this one, or we can have a patastis, or we can have the kendimata. Yeah, all these being up 1, just being no stress, stressed, or this would be regular, stressed, and no stress. So, all right. So if we go to exercise 48, we are dealing with up 4s and down 4s. So if we go up 4 from knee, what note does that put us on?
Da.
Nope, D. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, so we'll essentially be going from knee to thee, para que zo, ga knee. And we'll just do that a bunch. So, number 48. So, knee, 1, 2, 3. Ni pa pu ka di, ni di, ni pa. Pa pu ka di ke pa, ke pa vu. Vugadi kezo ni ga vi vi ke zo ni pa vi pa ni zo ni zo ke vi ga ni zo zo ke vi ga vu zo ke vi ga vu pa ke vi ga vu pa ni ga ga vu pa ni zo ga vu pa ni zo ni. Oh, we went down a good bit.
Yeah.
That knee at the end was a little lower than we
Good
started.
thing some of us
And
are
we
real
started
singers.
off
So,
It happens.
any questions
Yes.
besides it being difficult to figure out where you're going? Besides it just being a practice type of thing.
Is it okay to cheat by seeing the gamma, the delta, after when we have this +5 or -5, to just look the symbol of where
sure.
we are?
Yeah, you can use that. There is helper symbols, and I've done that sometimes where I have a jump and I know where I'm supposed to end, and then I kind of backtrack and I'm like, oh, okay, because sometimes you get symbols that I don't know off the top of my head, and I'm like, up 13. I don't know that one. But then I know it's up 13 because I'm like, why should I on knee? And then I go up before that. And so, or I go down before that.
I have a question.
Sure.
I noticed I forget what it's called. Last week I think you spoke about it, about kind of like the I don't know. It's like connecting the. It's like sliding into the next note.
Mhm.
What is that called?
It's called the psaphiston. The
And you said it's used quite a bit in.
or the psaphiston, I guess.
Did you speak to that?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was in some of the music that I had written to make it correct, but we hadn't learned it yet, and that's your little slur underneath
Right.
it. So if I were to write an oligon with this underneath it, yeah, you add some sort of emphasis underneath it. You would give it some sort of oomph, and so that one would be if it'd be ni pa vu. That would be this.
That's it.
Some sort of gruntish.
So was it in here? Because
Manly
I
exhortation.
missed it. But I heard it, but I missed it.
Maybe you heard the flutter.
Well, yeah, we had a bunch of flutters in there.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe I was just confused.
Sometimes I will connect the notes, just because in general, it's a very Western thing to go like ni pa vu ga di ni di.
Well, that's what I
ni.
was wondering. Is it supposed to be like so?
Oh no.
Okay.
No, this nothing here. You'll hear a lot of people. I mean, it would be ni pa vu ga di ni di ni.
Because it actually felt like it would be easier to go like that versus the.
Yeah. Well, what the one thing, just to connect this to Western music, what actually goes on, let's say in opera, if you actually listen closely and you slow it down enough, they're not going ni di ni. They're slurring between it because they need to make it sound legato. It's just they're slowing so quickly, and that was actually how I was taught in more recent times to slur. But ni di ni, there was a slur in there.
Yeah.
But it's done quickly enough that it connects them enough so it doesn't sound disjointed, but it's still there.
Right.
So that's more in Byzantine chant. It kind of gets a little bit elongated in the lines in terms of they get smudged. So yeah, a lot of things are going to be connected, or what people might say lazy, but that's kind of just inherent in the music. And sometimes it's actually written that emphasis, we'll see that it's actually a different thing, as opposed to just connecting the notes. That's more some sort of oomph beneath it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, connect the notes. I have no problem with that. I do it. So.
I just know there was a difference, and I thought, okay, because it could start to sound very Western. That's what I'm thinking.
But that's part of the problem, and that's why sometimes that's why I enjoy reading Byzantine notation instead of Western music, because a lot of times the inherent tendency is you see these two notes, I must therefore ni, the, ni, and really separate them because there's no notes in the middle. It's all up to interpretation. It's much more oral tradition, and you follow whoever's teaching you.
Right.
And most of the time, everyone, you're not going to sing it square, to use a Western terminology. So, does that answer? Okay, yeah. So, we'll do 49. This one just takes out the middlemen and gives you less help. So number 49. 1, 2, 3. Ni, the, ni, rest. Pa, ke, pa, rest. Vu, zo, vu. Ga, ni, ga. The, pa, the. Ke, zo, ni. I hope that was a nice ending to it, and we keep going. Next page. That's okay, we're starting on ni. Ni, ga, ni. Zo, vu, zo. Ke, pa, ke. The, ni, the. Ga, zo, ga. Vu, pa, ni, zo, ni. So it's this ending, or all those little times when you just have up ones and down ones where it's like, all right, this is easy.
Yeah.
It's like fine.
Raising the bar.
Yeah, exactly. So 50, 51, 52 are just practice things, so we'll go through those. So 50, this is from the Doxology, I believe. We praise thee, we bless thee, we worship thee.
Yes.
And just as a side note, proskynumen is it's often translated worship, but it's sometimes you hear come let us worship and fall down. That's all translating one word. Worship and fall down is just proskynumen.
Oh, is that right?
And correct me if I'm wrong.
Now that we've got some new speaks, great.
Yeah, and so but proskynumen it's like there's express adoration, fall down and worship, all these things that kind of are encompassed in it. And so then oftentimes you'll see music where it'll go proskynumen, and that's in English it's like and we worship. Doesn't really make any sense, but it's the idea of worship as in falling down. So
the music follows.
We lose it a little bit because we have one word that is kind of one dimensional, but this has whole bunches of meanings. But this one doesn't happen to do anything. It's quick, and so it doesn't word paint. So we start on ni and what's our first note that we actually sing?
The.
Okay. So where's the? So can we do it on knees and paws or
try it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 1. The Viga vu pa vu ga ke vi ni pa vu ga vu pa ni pa vu ni. I'm sorry, that was a little fast.
So the pavu is this. It's the same syllable.
Mhm.
Pavu.
Yep.
Should
Ni.
be the same syllable when you.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so, yeah, Doxan. So if we were to sing that, it'd be, from the end of the second line on La, it'd be La, 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 La. So number 51. So let's do it knees and paws again just to keep on this. And at the end of the first line, we see that we hold something for 3 beats. We hold up 4, which would be on our high knee. Mm-hmm. And then there's a plus there, meaning to breathe, which is partly for emphasis in that we went high, so we're going to kind of cut it off a little bit. But also that gives you the opportunity to, if you want to exaggerate that, to go knee, and take your time. You can do that. We'll just take a little breath. So knee, beginning of 51. 1, 2, 1. Ni pa vu ga vu vu pa vu ga di ke di ni di ke ga di ga ga pa vu ga di ke di ni pa vu ga ni. And that's we praise thee, we bless thee, we worship thee. Wait, we get back.
See the number 4. Is that number 4? The second part.
Yes, yeah. So what you have is that this one kind of goes in between 2s and 4s. Mm-hmm. And so then, yeah, they have a 2 when it tells you it's 2, and they have a 4, and it's in general in 4. This one happens to be.
The third part is 4 again? Yeah,
4, and then 4, and then 4, and then they have another 2. Mm-hmm. So once they establish that there's going to be a lot of 4s, they stop writing the number 4. Okay. But they still put in a 2. And this one, we praise thee, we bless thee, we worship thee, we give thanks to thee. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So 52, this is again a prayer of thanksgiving. So this is again in quadruple meter, the 4s. So let's do this one on La, just to diversify. So what's our first note?
D.
Yep. D. 1, 2, 3. La 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 Sorry, that was a little fast. Again. Any questions on that one? Cool. All right. So instead of going on, we will actually skip, and we'll go back to this in a minute. And we'll go back to what we introduced last time was rhythm. And everyone remember what we discussed? Anyone remember? or what the name was called for the rhythmic.
The gorgon.
The gorgon. Yep.
The what?
Gorgon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, so we have what we have is we have our. Oh, switch in a second to blue maybe. Gorgon, and then if we have two of them, that's our D gorgon, so 2. And then if we have 3 of them, anybody?
So 3 gorgon.
Yeah, 3 gorgon.
I sense the pattern here.
Yeah, and I imagine there might be a quadra gorgon and a pentagorgon, which you will see in some music, but never. I haven't read any of those, especially in English. We're not so far advanced yet. So the way that these work that we discussed last time is that this one has 1 point going into 2, which means that we take off a half. So we just divide the one by the other, and we get 1/2. So we take off a half a beat off of the note it's on, and the previous note. This one has 2. We never discussed this one. So this one has 2 points, and we have 3 down here. So 2/3. So we take a 2/3 off of the one it's on, the previous one, and the one after it to make it 1 full beat. And then this one has 3 points, and it goes into 4, so that would take off 3/4.
I'm sorry, take off the one it's on, and then the one before it and the one after. Is that what you said?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'll share that in a second.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna.
This one is 3/4, and so then it takes 3/4 off the one it's on, the one before it, and 2 after it. So this one is 1/2, 2/3, and 3/4. Okay, and all this is to make it symmetric for the rhythm.
Okay,
And-
so the way you explained that is scaring me because it actually made sense.
Okay, very good.
It did make sense for me.
Okay, we will explain it such that it hopefully makes sense.
The way the points, you have to look at the points on the.
Yes. Do you take 2/3 for before and 2/3 after, or the
Yep.
other?
2/3 before, 2/3,
Oh,
1/3 after.
So you take 2/3 off of the one it's on, the one before, and the one after.
Okay.
So each one of these, no matter what, you always go one before, and only one before, and then you go as many afterwards as is necessary to make one beat. So if I were to do something like this, let's say 2 Esons, this would be 1 beat and 1 beat, and then I happen to put a gorgon on top. That takes a half a beat off of this one, so that makes this one 1/2, and it takes a half a beat off of the one before it. So
then you have 1 beat.
yeah, this one equals this, just 1 beat. Okay? So, but then if I do this...
But why did they do that? Because
What do you
isn't it
mean?
easier just to write the 1 beat?
Oh, well, normally you write a different note there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, the only time that you would see this is if you put a little symbol in the middle here. That means flutter, and that's for a certain purpose. But we'll talk about that later.
And why don't they put it on the first note?
We discussed that. We discussed that partly last week. And would anyone like to explain
I didn't
it?
get that far into the
That's
tape.
right.
They want you to read. I think his theory is that they want you to read ahead, and so if you get to that point, you realize you've already messed something up. That'll teach you that you should have read farther ahead.
Yeah, and so my practical understanding of it, I don't know if this has anything to do with the way it developed, was that you always have to read at least 1 note ahead. So in order to read this one correctly, you have to already be here, and so it's a way to allow you to read ahead in the music, know what words come next, know what music comes next, so you're not surprised by something. So you should at least be reading 1 note ahead, because that's what that's what the rhythm requires you to do. If you can read more than that, that's phenomenal.
I mean, that's what they tell you to do in sight reading anyway. You should be reading farther ahead.
Yeah,
than
you
you're playing.
should be ahead. So that's at least my understanding. I'm gonna switch markers. All my blacks are gone. I must use black color. So is blue okay?
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah, that's a bright blue. So this, if we do this now, we'll put it on the middle symbol. So that's our D gorgon. Takes 2/3 off of this guy, making it 1/3. Takes 2/3 off of this one, making it 1/3. Takes 2/3 off of this one, making it 1/3, which equals 1. Okay. And then I'll just put it up here.
Wait a minute, I don't get 1. I'll go back. Could you say that again?
1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3
Mhm.
equals 3/3.
Okay.
So, and then this one. In order to do that, we just do that. We put the,
One more, there you go.
one more. So we put our tree gorgon on top of the second one, taking 3/4 off of this one, this one, this one, and this one, making this 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4.
16.
Yep, 16th notes. So 8th notes, triplets, and 16ths. So this is just 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 E and a 2 E and a. Okay. So that's how at least our first set of rhythmic markings will go. So we will skip over to 61. We'll go back to the other ones in a minute.
This is so deep. There's like so much in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like just a bit. There's so much.
Well, you'll see eventually when you get to cherubic hymns and things like that. Oftentimes they all feed into each other. Like you're reading and they're all affected by each other. It's kind of funny when you're like, this one's 1/2, but it's not really 1/2 because it's affected by the next one, which itself is affected.
See, that's when reading ahead doesn't seem to really help. Is you guys got to read everything at once.
Well, what I found is that oftentimes you end up reading it correctly despite any efforts on your own because somehow you just kind of muddle forward and then you just somehow you read it. And
You see also
I've
the
not had
letters.
that experience,
You see
yeah.
the letters written and you understand.
yeah, you
where
just
the
you just know.
information is.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a touch of that during Holy Week.
Did you?
I thought it could happen.
I've never
He's like,
have.
at the chanter stand, here, do you remember this? Oh, I don't know, but I'll try. I had moments.
So 61. This will be our first time of actually reading rhythm. And then we'll talk about a few more things before we get going. So 61, we don't get very high, so that'll be our knee. So 1, 2, 1. Knee, 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 pa, 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 voo, 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 pa, 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 knee, 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 zo, knee. Okay? And we'll slow it down little by little because eventually we need a slow tempo to get all these in. So 62. 1, 2, 1 and 2. Ni pa vu ga ke ke zo ni pa ni zo ke vi ga vu pa ni zo ni. Okay? Is that difficult for people?
Because there's no. Okay, I see.
Yep. So does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
Let me know if you want to do something again, but otherwise we'll keep going. 63. Ni, so 1, 2, 1. Ni, pa, pa, pa. Pa, vu, vu, vu. Vu, ga, ga, ga. Ga, vi, vi, vi. Vi, ke, vi, ga. Ga, vi, ga, vu. Vu, ga, vu, pa. Pa, vu, pa, ni. All right. Is that
Oh, it's a good one, and it really shows you have to look forward.
Yep.
Yes.
You have to.
so? And
It's not. It's good to.
It's
you
you
have
need
to.
to. Yeah. The one thing that may help, and that I don't know if it will, is you can be the judge of it. Is that oftentimes what you'll see, especially the head chanter, who'll always tap like this on the chanter stand to make sure that everyone has the same rhythm. You don't want to tap loudly because then it's in the middle of the service and like during the day cried.
Like a clock ticking.
Yes, but then if you're actually practicing, it's sometimes a good thing because they'll show you in certain manuals of theory. It's like 1 end. Whenever this is end, 2 and 3. So this, if you're doing these gorgons, it should be ni pa pa pa. That should be your pa. So that may help you keep the rhythm. That may help you understand the rhythm. I submit it for your approval. So 64. Similar to the last one, but a little bit different. So, ne agie, that'll be our knee. 1, 2, 1. Ni ni pa vu, pa vu ga, vu ga vi, vi ga, ga vu, vu pa ni zo ni.
Oh, they threw that last one in.
The
Yep.
the second movement with first movement. The before last is interesting because it's the second movement.
Oh, yeah.
First movement and the second.
Yeah. Yep. So 65, and then we'll learn something new. So 65, 1, or let's see, how high does it go? Here's a ni. I think that'll be fine. 1, 2, 1. Ni pa vu ga vi ke vi, ga vu ga vi ke zo ni, ni zo ke vi ga vu pa ni zo ni, ni. I hope everyone got the last 3 notes.
Yes.
No.
So
Well, it
Had
makes
it
it
in
sound
a
so
nasal.
slow whenever you're
yeah, I know.
put it up against that.
It's deceptive, which is why, like, if you're like 1, 2, and then like ni pa vu, and then I don't know what would happen. Ni pa vu ga vu. So if you get the tree gorgon in there, anyone want to do 65 again, or does that feel everyone understand how it works?
Mhm.
It works. My brain's still confusing the gorgon and the Nike symbol.
Oh, really?
I don't know why it's
Ah.
doing that.
So I've had people confuse other things, but I've had people confuse like when there's an Isan written above something, and it's like that. And then they're like, is that a
Oh,
ga,
yeah.
or is that a
Putting it on
gorgon?
the title,
So hopefully, oftentimes they put it in parentheses or something, or they
Yeah.
put it
Yeah.
an alpha next to it. But so we'll keep going if that's okay, unless anyone disagrees. So before we get into those, the triplet rhythm and the quadruple rhythm, or the quadruplet rhythm, the one thing that they introduce here is how to deal with rhythm on combination symbols. And so we saw that we had symbols such as this, which we remember means that. You just read from bottom up when going up. Then we also had symbols, which it doesn't introduce now, but I'll introduce it, which is this one, similar. It still means up one, but it's in a different order. And then what they introduced there as well is that our ipuroli, and if you have that, that means down one. So everyone remember these? Okay. So now what happens if I put a gorgon on top, a gorgon on top, a gorgon on top? So the way I have rationalized this is that the gorgon, it can go on top or bottom on the kendimata. It goes here, and it goes here.
So it has no significant meaning whether it's on top or bottom.
In this one it does, but I will say at the moment, unless I'm proved wrong in the future, this one will always go on the top, and it always means this.
Okay.
This
But
one,
others,
on these ones, it always goes on the kendimata. No matter what, your gorgon is going to go there.
okay.
And I have a reason for that, and I hope it helps. So my reason for here that it always goes on the kendimata is that this always, whatever note that this gorgon is on, it makes it the end of a beat. So whatever note this is 1 end to end. Which if you have 1 end to end, the end of a beat, the one end, this part of the beat, the end part, is always going to be an unstressed part, because this is your stressed part. Your 1 and 2 and 3. This is always unstressed. This is your unstressed symbol, your kendimata. Therefore, if I were to put the kendimata here, which you might think that's how we should do it, that makes this the stressed beat, which doesn't make any sense because that's our unstressed symbol. So because of that, in all these combinations, to make sure that this is always unstressed, they always put the gorgon on the kendimata to make sure that it stays unstressed. Okay? Is that acceptable to people? Does that seem to make sense? Okay. On this one, the convention is whenever it's on the top, it goes in the first one. Whenever it's on the bottom, it goes in the second one. I don't think you'll ever see this on the bottom. So it'll always go there. And so then the difference, there's a difference between these, and we kind of had it before, but if we have, let's say if we put an isan before, this is ni pavu, this is ni pavu. Okay, everyone see that difference?
Yeah.
And this one is Upani. It's all in there. So, and the only thing to add at the moment would be if I happen to add a dot there. Now the dot's on the bottom, dot goes there, but I will write it as a klasma because that's a little bit more traditional. So you could write a dot there if you wanted to, but you'd have to change things. So this would be one half of a beat. This is 2 beats now. Anything confusing, or is that okay?
But does it take the 1/2 from the previous one?
Yeah, this one is 1/2 and 1/2 of the previous.
Okay.
Yep. I just didn't have anything there. So let's do 66. So so just to give you an example, the first 2 measures, 2 sets of rhythm, will be ni pavu pa pavu gavu, and it keeps going like that.
Yeah.
Make sense? So ni 1 2 3. Ni pavu pa vu pavu gavu, my lord, vu ga di ga di ke di ga vu gavu pa vu pani pa pani zo ni. Make sense?
Which one were we on?
Oh,
66?
Okay, because I ended up in the wrong spot.
okay.
I was like,
Yeah,
no,
somewhere I
before
got
you guys
lost.
So
I don't know. I think it was after the V symbol.
oh, it's after
Somewhere
the
I
V.
got lost. Yeah.
The last part of the first line.
V. I mean, do you want me to sing it and then
Yeah.
you to follow along?
Yes, please.
Okay. So at the beginning, ni pavu pa pavu gavu vu ga di ga di ke di gavu gavu pavu vu pani pa pani zo ni. Does that make more sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was making it different in my mind.
Okay. Read through it again, or go to 67?
67.
Yeah, 67.
Okay. So this one uses the other combination symbol. So ni, same. I think it has the same progression, just a different symbol. So 1 2 3. Ni pavu pa pavu gavu vu ga di ga di ke di ke di ga di ga Gavu Pa Pavu Pani. And just to clarify that, I assume it makes sense since we sang it, but if it doesn't, you have this followed by this, and they happen to be barred together with a large odigon, and then it has this on top, like Gorgon, which means 1/2, 1/2. So they just kind of throw it in there without introducing it.
I was like, oh, wait a minute.
I'm wondering if that's one of those things where they don't introduce it and then you still sing it right and you're like, wait a minute.
They tricked you.
Yeah, I know more than I thought.
Or you see it coming and you panic completely and shut up.
That also may happen. So 68. So this one is in duple rhythm. So Ne agie ni pavu pavu gavu gali gali kezo ni zo kedi gavu pavu pani zoni. Okay.
I ended up in the wrong. I mean, I was way ahead of myself with them.
Okay. Any questions on it or?
Yeah, let's do that one again.
Okay.
Let's do it again because I didn't quite understand the rhythm.
Okay. Ni pavu gavu gali kezo ni zo kedi gavu pavu pani zoni. Does that help?
Yes, tremendously. Thank you.
Sure. And how are the knees and paws coming along? Is it
Better,
getting easier?
Actually, it's getting easier. Yeah.
So hopefully, like you're getting the order, and then eventually that the order will beget jumps, and the jumps will beget rhythm. I don't know. So we'll stop there for the moment because we're pretty much done. Can we just take the set of Watcher Lords, these verses of the psalm from the Pligal of the First Mode from St. Anthony's Monastery.com. I believe you should know everything here. At the moment, if there's any special symbols that you see...
That I don't have.
Which
Oh,
one?
I gave. That was the first thing I gave out.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You're nice to old ladies. Thank you.
And these are... So the verses
How
of...
come I don't have it?
That's right here.
Oh.
Hidden in plain
Come
sight.
on, it's been a
Long
long
day.
day.
So,
I got a
this...
concussion.
Besides the fact I'm an old lady.
So this would go after Lord I've Cried for the brief. So these are all brief. And this is from the fast version from K. Not really fast, but they're done a little more quickly. And so this starts again at K, same as the God is the Lord would do. I picked these ones because they don't have a terribly large amount of jumps, or the jumps they have are not big. So I believe you know everything on the first page. Yeah, you don't know something on the second page, but I believe you know everything on the first page. So this one, let's just read Settle Lord, Watch Before My Mouth, and then we'll be done for the evening.
Yeah.
So the first one is Jump Up 2. It happens to have that little slur symbol, the oomph, and then there's another flutter symbol on door, but we'll just ignore that for the moment. I'll do it, but you can if you want. Ane, ane. Is it okay to do it on words, or do people want to do it on Kezoni? Or
Should be fine.
okay, words Kezoni is okay.
What are we gonna do? We're gonna sing the words or do the...
Sing words, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll do Settle Lord. So our first note is ni. So Settle Is that good?
Cool.
Okay, can we do number 2?
Cool.
Let's do number 2, and then we'll really be done. So we won't go any further. So, incline not my heart unto words of evil, to make excuse with excuses in sins. Okay? So little by little, we're getting these, and we can start to read music. We can start to do all sorts of crazy cool stuff. Any questions? So this is the kind of the big hurdle to overcome is this rhythm thing. The jumps are just things you have to practice. This is kind of a whole different mindset. So if you have time to practice, that's fine. If you don't, that's also fine. But we will continue with rhythm in the future.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Good night.